Keith, what are some of the biggest advances that have taken place in the life insurance buying experience over the past year?
Thank you, Dan. What I would say kind of in two general buckets, I would say both in terms of sort of process and customization. Prudential, we've had a suite of electronic capabilities that we've been building and developing over the last several years, right, to help with the process and help the process flow better. And the pandemic has really accelerated those efforts, which are always, we're very consistent with our longer term, broader strategy as well. But we were able to sort of take these tools, these electronic tools, and create an electronic platform where we could pivot to that during the pandemic, and then allowed us to be able to really do business in an end-to-end way, mostly electronic for the vast majority of our flow and most of our products and policies. We had very, very good results from that. It worked very, very well, and it continues to work well. And we have a lot of momentum that we certainly plan to continue to move forward as we think about the road ahead, right? So we kind of move from a lot of paper processes to electronic processes, and where I see us going is then now further digitization and what that could mean and what that could look like. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later.
Well, let's dive into that, right? Because anytime I have an open door to the home office, I want to ask the questions. If I don't, the members of NAILBA will hold me accountable. So let's talk about that. How are you engaging customers? I mean, everyone knows that there's been tons of changes in the past year, and that's what we're trying to accomplish here with NAILBA, getting those changes out. So how are you engaging customers?
Well, by being available in as many places as we can, right, in terms of meeting customers' needs and meeting them where they are. And that, I think we all hear that a lot in different ways in different circles, but it's like, what does that really mean? So we want to be available in lots of different product types, lots of different entry points into the insurance process, and kind of meet people where they are with their insurance needs. So we're seeing a lot of that. We've seen growth in applications and applicants during the pandemic. It's just the industry has. Our business here has grown as well. We're seeing certainly more interest in insurance with younger generations, millennials in particular, where we're seeing growth in that marketplace. And we're also seeing, the desire for people to do business in a more digitized way. We say kind of more of expecting to say, how do we get information to people? How do I find out more about a policy?
Right.
The other part, we talk about new business and underwriting a lot, and the other part that I think we should also mention is sort of the servicing component of this is that, we've seen many new ways to engage customers during the past year, because we've seen a lot more phone calls coming in and people really talking about their policies and what their policies can do for them. We've had the opportunity to help people with payment plans in cases, being able to delay payments or stop payments, being able to kind of put their life insurance policy to work for them in terms of loans, or in some cases maybe partial surrenders. And it's been a great opportunity we've found to really kind of help educate people, but also let them to know that their insurance policy can help them with a lot more than just death benefit coverage.
Well, there's no doubt that Prudential has responded extremely well. That's been talked about throughout the NAILBA community. A lot of our carrier partners have responded extremely well. But you mentioned the keyword up front that I know is on the minds of many BGA principals. I know it's on the minds of many independent advisors. And the keyword is underwriting, right? So underwriting rules and requirements. Everyone's sort of taken a good hard look at accelerated underwriting over the past year and a half. There was already momentum in that direction to begin with. The pandemic has definitely sped that along, if you will. So how specifically has Prudential responded around underwriting, rules and requirements?
Yeah, thanks. So we're all carriers are taking a close look at that and continue to monitor that very closely. It's a changing environment, and I think everybody sort of has to get comfortable in terms of where they want to be there. It kind of starts with making sure that customers are really clear with what the coverage that they have. For example, Prudential does not have a pandemic exclusion clause. So customers that have insurance can feel very confident with what they have.
Yep.
And that was one of the, this is much underwriting, but just in general, because I think we all had to deal with some of the social media traffic that was out there around, if people got a vaccine, that their coverage was not in place, or, if they took, some of the payment plan options, that they would be losing benefits in their policy. And none of that was true. And it was rather frustrating to have to see some of those things, but it also gave us an opportunity to help customers understand what they could feel, secure and confident about in their policies. We're all learning about, COVID, the short-term effects, long-term effects. Some of that's going to take a little bit more time to come into full view. And so we did make some changes to our underwriting requirements during that time, in terms of looking at places where people, conditions where there were higher risk categories, in taking applications in. But we also looked at opportunities to expand in places where we could use our electronic capabilities and some of our algorithmic underwriting. For example, trying to go without paramedic exams for cases under $3 million,
Yep.
trying to use more data and electronic health records. And that's also something that I saw growth in and benefit in during this time, is that we're able to be able to say, what specifically do we need for this specific applicant? How much of that can we satisfy with data and electronic capabilities that we can pull in very quickly, and not have to go through some of the traditional requirements, which were a really necessary thing to be doing, last year at this time. But now they've become, just ways where it just works better, right? And it's just a better experience for producers and for customers to do so. So we're going to continue to watch it closely. We're going to continue to, we'll make changes where we need to make changes. And I think as our confidence continues to grow with vaccines and understanding more in terms of people that have been exposed to COVID or have been treated for COVID, being able to continue to, introduce them to life insurance. Our philosophy here all along, Dan, was to try to continue during this time, because this is a great time to buy life insurance. This is a great time to for people to be interested in life insurance. And so our preference and our bias continues to be, let's find ways to have people get covered during this time. And that's going to continue to be our energy and our direction. And we'll continue to evaluate our requirements as we move forward.
Well, Keith, I want to thank you specifically for addressing the point about, the social media spiral that happened, where there was a movement that certain things weren't going to be covered if you were vaccinated, if you were not vaccinated, if you had COVID. I know ACLI put out a statement, NAILBA put out a statement. So thank you for bringing that up. That was definitely part of that water cooler conversation, in distribution of what's accurate and what's not. So again, a great opportunity where our carrier partners responded. I want to shift to, just the last point. You mentioned a lot, there's some changes going on, obviously changes in underwriting rules and requirement, looking at different products in the past. We're all anxious to get out and see each other again and begin selling. Clearly there's virtual opportunities to sell, but what are the most critical priorities for life insurers to focus on? I mean, and you've been in the business a long time. You could speak from the Prudential standpoint, but please feel free. This is an industry-wide question. We want to know those priorities, and so we can align with them.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think there's some very clear ones. I think one is, let's not go backwards, let's go forwards, right? Yep. So the momentum is there, the interest is there. We've seen the power, like I said, of electronic tools, and then driving to further digitization and doing that together in a collective way where it makes sense for everybody. So I can speak for Prudential here very, 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 very candidly and say we're not going back to ways of the past in terms of doing business. We're gonna continue to build on the changes that we've made and continue to expand those changes to continue to make the producer and the customer experience better. So I would say that's definitely top of mind for me as we move forward. We've seen the power of these tools. Let's continue to seize that benefit and continue to drive the industry forward. I think simplicity is another one that's out there, right? And it's one of the things that I've seen a lot is we've had to get more creative, as I mentioned a moment ago, with underwriting requirements and how do you get things? What if you can't get an APS? What do you do? What if you can't get a paramedic exam in that situation? What do you do? And I think, we've been really creative and alternatives, but as part of some of that, it also has opened eyes, I think, to the notion that we can get simpler from a customer perspective and from a producer perspective. And so, that would be my second point. It's just around continually driving to simplification, making the process easier, getting to more once and done, wherever we possibly can. Let's not over underwrite. So if it says, if there's agent amount requirements, let's not necessarily go through the rote agent amount requirements. Let's customize it to that particular applicant to say, what exactly do we need for this particular applicant? That all of those things will help drive to, people having more confidence in the process and people having a better experience in the purchasing of life insurance.
Well, you hit the key word there, experience, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing to sometimes take inventory of what our process is and how to improve it. When I came into the industry a couple of years ago, all I heard was, "Oh, it's a difficult product to sell," and me not having the background, I'd say, wait a sec, it's life insurance. It's not a difficult product to sell. We've made it difficult to sell. So sometimes we've used the buzzwords about innovation and disruption. Well, they came calling last year, and it allowed us to take a fresh look at and put a set of eyes on. And clearly Prudential is doing that. Keith, anything else? I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. Obviously, listen, Prudential's an industry champion, mainstay throughout independent distribution, from yourself and Keith and Phil Chuba and Doug Winkler and Celine, all always around NAILBA and recognizable faces. You guys do nothing but support your clientele. So thank you. And we're excited to see you, see you actually in the fall, when hopefully things are looking much better. So thank you for joining us at NAILBA.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure. I appreciate it very much. And we're proud supporters of NAILBA, and
Yes, you are.
look forward to continuing to work together.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Take care.